Hello all, and welcome to lesson number 6 in FRC Programming. Today we'll be covering classes and objects. So as always, here's our reference website. Feel free to use the link or scan the QR code to learn more about programming. So in Java, we have primitive data types like ints. Well, strings aren't primitive, but they're also an object. Ints, booleans, characters, all the like, but we want to sometimes be able to represent our own types of data, like enums, for example, are a way to do this, but we're still very limited with the way we use enums. So to fix this, we can create classes. Classes are like the blueprints like I've talked about in lesson 1. You can use classes to make objects and then manipulate these objects for various results. And when you create a class, you have to create it in a new file with the same name as the class. So you can see we create public class car, and we can create the car class, and we can make objects here. You can see we make a first car, and we make that a new car object, and then the second car, which is also a new car object. Remember, this class would have to be defined in its own separate file. So we can add properties to these classes, like let's say a car, right? It has to have a number of wheels, it has to have like a color, it has to have like a size, age, color, or speed. Each car will have these properties, but each car object will have a different property. You can see we use variables to represent these properties, like its model, age, color, and speed. And now these two cars will have different models, ages, colors, and speeds. You can see the first car is a potato model. That's 7 age, pink color, and its speed is 12. But the second car has the model name of a carrot. Its age is 3, its color is orange, and its speed is 9.4. Because speed is double, you see that we can use both 12 and 9.4. Now constructors, we can manually define each variable each time we create a class, each time we create an object, but that just takes up too much space. Instead, we can create a constructor within the class, and all we have to do is call this constructor once, and then it'll set all the parameters for an object. It's like making a function. You don't have to always copy and paste the same code every time you want to create a new object. By default, a blank constructor is made for a class which doesn't do anything, but we can create our own constructors to give our classes its own type of instantiation. You can see public car, and then this constructor, which is just the public and then the class name, will set all the variables and all the parameters inside of the car class. So we can see we're calling this constructor twice, and this will create the first car and the second car, and that is functionally identical to what we do here. So methods. Classes also have methods. Methods are functions associated with a class. So you can see we have a drive method which will give us a time, and it's going to print out our time. You can see since it's void, it doesn't return anything, but rather just executes. And for the purpose of Java FRC, we're going to have getters and setters. By their name, the getters and setters get the values from a class and set the values in a class. We should make our class variables all private, because having public variables generally isn't good for programming, because it allows it to be controlled, it allows it to be set sometimes unintentionally, which can lead to bad results for our code. Instead, by using getters and setters, this is much better for abstraction and programming in general. You can see this is a little verbose and wordy, but it is worth it in the long run, because it also makes coding very readable, because you can see that, oh, I'm setting the speed right here, instead of just saying like first car.speed is equal to 13.4. It's a lot more readable. You can also add logic to setters, for example, this also prevents our objects from getting bad data. For example, if we return a negative speed, this isn't possible, but through our getter, we can filter out the bad variables and only set our data to good values. So packages are basically folders of classes, and you use packages to organize classes together. This is primarily used for organizing your code and making sure that the classes that are related to each other are grouped with each other. So the static keyword means two things. it first means that you don't need to create an object to use it, and secondly, setting a static variable will make sure that across every single object created from that class, they all share the same value. For example, here you can see I'm creating a class called num object, and I'm setting a static integer num 33. So for every num object I create, each num object will have the same num value because they're all sharing that same variable. So here's a quick knowledge check. What do you think this will print out? Pause the video now and give it your best guess. So if you guessed 4, 4, you'd be correct. Why is that? Because this is a static variable. When I create two objects and then I set one of the objects' variable num equal to 4, that sets this variable to 4. However, remember that this variable is shared across all the objects, so both of them become 4. Therefore, it'll print out 4 twice. Thank you for listening.